A Passage to India, Chapter 7, Part 2. Why don't you fellows run a club in Chandapur, Aziz? Perhaps some day. Just now I see Mrs. Moore and what's her name? Coming. How fortunate that it was an unconventional party, where formalities are ruled out. On this basis, Aziz found the English ladies easy to talk to. He treated them like men. Beauty would have troubled him, for it entails rules of its own. But Mrs. Moore was so old, and Miss Quested so plain, that he was spared this anxiety. Adela's angular body and the freckles on her face were terrible defects in his eyes, and he wondered how God could have been so unkind to any female form. His attitude towards her remained entirely straightforward in consequence. "I want to ask you something, Dr. Aziz," she began. "I heard from Mrs. Moore how helpful you were to her in the mosque, and how interesting. She learnt more about India in those few minutes' talk with you than in the 3 weeks since we landed." "Oh, please, do not mention a little thing like that. Is there anything else I may tell you about my country?" "I want you to explain a disappointment we had this morning. It must be some point of Indian etiquette." "There honestly is none," he replied. "We are by nature a most informal people." "I'm afraid we must have made some blunder and given offense," said Mrs. Moore. "That is even more impossible. But may I know the facts?" "An Indian lady and gentleman were to send their carriage for us this morning at 9. It has never come. We waited and waited and waited. We can't think what happened." "Some misunderstanding," said Fielding, seeing at once that it was the type of incident that had better not be cleared up. "Oh, no, it wasn't that," Miss Quested persisted. "They even gave up going to Calcutta to entertain us. We must have made some stupid blunder, we both feel sure." "I wouldn't worry about that." "Exactly what Mr. Hislop told me," she retorted, reddening a little. "If one doesn't worry, how's one to understand?" The host was inclined to change the subject, but Aziz took it up warmly, and on learning fragments of the delinquents' names, pronounced that they were Hindus. "Slack Hindus. They have no idea of society. I know them very well because of a doctor at the hospital. Such a slack, unpunctual fellow. It is as well you did not go to their house, for it would give you a wrong idea of India. Nothing sanitary. I think for my own part they grew ashamed of their house, and that is why they did not send." "That's a notion," said the other man. "I do so hate mysteries," Adela announced. "We English do." "I dislike them not because I'm English, but from my own personal point of view," she corrected. "I like mysteries, but I rather dislike muddles," said Mrs. Moore. "A mystery is a muddle." "Oh, do you think so, Mr. Fielding?" "A mystery is only a high-sounding term for a muddle. No advantage in stirring it up in either case. Aziz and I know well that India's a muddle." "India's? Oh, what an alarming idea!" "There'll be no muddle when you come to see me," said Aziz, rather out of his depth. "Mrs. Moore and everyone, I invite you all. Oh, please." The old lady accepted. She still thought the young doctor excessively nice. Moreover, a new feeling, half languor, half excitement, bade her turn down any fresh path. Miss Quested accepted out of adventure. She also liked Aziz, and believed that when she knew him better, he would unlock his country for her. His invitation gratified her, and she asked him for his address. Aziz thought of his bungalow with horror. It was a detestable shanty near a low bazaar. There was practically only one room in it, and that infested with small black flies. "Oh, But we will talk of something else now, he exclaimed. I wished I lived here. See this beautiful room? Let us admire it together for a little. See those curves at the bottom of the arches? What delicacy! It is the architecture of question and answer. Mrs. Moore, you are in India. I am not joking. The room inspired him. It was an audience hall built in the 18th century for some high official, and though of wood, had reminded Fielding of the Loggia di Lanzi in Florence. Little rooms, now Europeanized, clung to it on either side. But the central hall was unpapered and unglassed, and the air of the garden poured in freely. One sat in public, on exhibition as it were, in full view of the gardeners who were screaming at the birds and of the man who rented the tank for the cultivation of water chestnut. Fielding let the mango trees too. There was no knowing who might not come in, and his servants sat on their steps night and day to discourage thieves. Beautiful, certainly, and the Englishman had not spoiled it, whereas Aziz, in an Occidental moment, would have hung Maud Goodman's on the walls. Yet there was no doubt to whom the room really belonged. I am doing justice here. A poor widow who has been robbed comes along, and I give her 50 rupees, to another 100, and so on and so on. I should like that. Mrs. Moore smiled, thinking of the modern method as exemplified in her son. Rupees don't last forever, I'm afraid, she said. Mine would. God would give me more than he saw I gave. Always be giving, like the Nawab Bahadur. My father was the same. That is why he died poor. And pointing about the room, he peopled it with clerks and officials, all benevolent because they lived long ago. So we would sit giving forever, on a carpet instead of chairs. That is the chief change between now and then. But I think we would never punish anyone. The ladies agreed. Poor criminal, give him another chance. It only makes a man worse to go to prison and be corrupted. His face grew very tender, the tenderness of one incapable of administration and unable to grasp that if the poor criminal is let off, he will rob again the poor widow. He was tender to everyone except a few family enemies whom he did not consider human. On these, he desired revenge. He was even tender to the English. He knew at the bottom of his heart that they could not help being so cold and odd and circulating like an ice stream through his land. We punish no one, he repeated, and in the evening we will give a great banquet with a nautch, and lovely girls shall shine in every side of the tank with fireworks in their hands, and all shall be feasting and happiness until the next day, when there shall be justice as before. 50 rupees, 100, 1,000, till peace comes. Ah, why didn't we live in that time? But are you admiring Mr. Fielding's house? Do look how the pillars are painted blue, and the verandas pavilions. What do you call them? That are above us inside are blue also. Look at the carving on the pavilions. Think of the hours it took. Their little roofs are curved to imitate bamboo. So pretty, and the bamboos waving by the tank outside. Mrs. Moore, Mrs. Moore! Well, she said, laughing, you remember the water by our mosque? It comes down and fills this tank, a skillful arrangement of the emperor's. They stopped here going down into Bengal. They loved water. Wherever they went, they created fountains, gardens, hammams. I was telling Mr. Fielding I would give anything to serve them. He was wrong about the water, which no emperor, however skillful, can cause to gravitate uphill. A depression of some depth, together with the whole of Chandapur, lay between the mosque and Fielding's house. Ronnie would have pulled him up. Turton would have wanted to pull him up, but restrained himself. Fielding did not even want to pull him up. He had dulled his craving for verbal truth and cared chiefly for truth of mood. As for Miss Quested, she accepted everything Aziz said as true verbally. In her ignorance, she regarded him as India, and never surmised that his outlook was limited and his methods inaccurate, and that no one is India. He was now much excited, chattering away hard, and even saying damn when he got mixed up in his sentences. He told them of his profession and of the operations he had witnessed and performed, and he went into details that scared Mrs. Moore, though Miss Quested mistook them for proofs of his broad-mindedness. She had heard such a talk at home in advance of academic circles, deliberately free. She supposed him to be emancipated as well as reliable, and placed him on a pinnacle which he could not retain. He was high enough for the moment, to be sure, but not on any pinnacle. Wings bore him up, and flagging would deposit him. The arrival of Professor Godbole quieted him somewhat, but it remained his afternoon. The Brahmin, polite and enigmatic, did not impede his eloquence, and even applauded it. He took his tea at a little distance from the outcasts, from a low table placed slightly behind him, to which he stretched back, and, as it were, encountered food by accident. He feigned indifference to Professor Godbole's tea. He was elderly and wizened, with a gray mustache and gray blue eyes, and his complexion was as fair as a European's. He wore a turban that looked like pale purple macaroni, coat, waistcoat, dhoti, socks, and clocks. The clocks matched his turban, and his whole appearance suggested harmony, as if he had reconciled the products of East and West, mental as well as physical, and could never be discomposed. The ladies were interested in him and hoped that he would supplement Dr. Aziz by saying something about religion. But he only ate and ate, smiling, never letting his eye catch sight of his hand. Leaving the Mughal emperors, Aziz turned to topics that could distress no one. He described the ripening of the mangoes, and how in his boyhood he used to run out in the rains to a big mangrove grove belonging to an uncle and gorge there. Then back with water streaming over you, and perhaps rather a pain inside. But I did not mind. All my friends were painting with me. We have a proverb in Urdu: what does unhappiness matter when we are all unhappy together? Which comes in conveniently after mangoes. Miss Quested, do wait for mangoes. Why not settle altogether in India? I'm afraid I can't do that, said Adela. She made the remark without thinking what it meant. To her, as to the three men, it seemed in key with the rest of the conversation, and not for several minutes, indeed, not for half an hour, did she realize that it was an important remark, and ought to have been made in the first place to Ronnie. Visitors like you are too rare. They are indeed, said Professor Godbole. Such affability is seldom seen. But what can we offer to detain them? Mangoes, mangoes! They laughed. Even mangoes can be got in England now, put in Fielding. They ship them in ice-cold rooms. You can make India in England, apparently, just as you can make England in India. Frightfully expensive in both cases, said the girl. I suppose so. And nasty. But the host wouldn't allow the conversation to take this heavy turn. He turned to the old lady, who looked flustered and put out, he could not imagine why, and asked about her own plans. She replied that she should like to see over the college. Everyone immediately arose with the exception of Professor Godbole, who was finishing a banana. And we're going to stop here and continue with this chapter in the next video. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the book. I love you guys. As Tigger says, ta-ta for now.